Hey there, welcome to my latest live video. Today we're going to be talking about how to get what you want by accepting where you are, by getting off on what you don't want, basically. This is a really crucial skill that a lot of people need to apply to their magical work, and it's something where a lot of times. Okay, restarted the video. So just in case you missed the first 30 seconds, today we're doing a video on how to get the want when you're in a situation that you don't want to be in. What do I mean by that? Well, I've been reading this really interesting book called Existential Kink. Ta-da. I highly recommend it. And I've been applying these techniques myself and as part of just kind of changing my life around, because there's been some aspects of my life that I'm not too thrilled with, and I realized like the only person who can change that is me. I can't expect that anyone else is going to change it. I don't have control over how other people respond to what I'm doing or my choices, but I do have responsibility and choice of my own, and I own that. So that is, you learn how to get off on what you don't like about your life, because usually there is a buy-in on some level for the situation that you're in. Now, let's be clear, there can be circumstances in your life that you don't necessarily have full control over. More control than we tell ourselves that we have. But one of the things that people will do is they will occupy a victim mentality. And they'll be like, woe is me, this situation sucks, but I can't do anything about it. Case in point, how many of you watching this video, and you can raise your, are working at jobs that you don't like? And you say, but Taylor, if I leave this job, I'm not able to pay my bills. How you're setting yourself up for a victim mentality there, where you're keeping yourself in a circumstance that you don't like because you feel in that in order to what? Just survive. I don't want to make light of the fact that looking for work and trying to find something that's satisfying or anything like that doesn't involve some work. But I think a lot of times people will put themselves in situations, they'll put themselves in relationships, they'll put themselves in careers, they'll put themselves in other activities where they're not happy or thrilled with what they're doing, but they accept it because, hey, this allows me to get by. And then what do they end up doing? They end up distracting themselves a lot of the time. Now, as magicians, that's not what we want to be doing. If we are just surviving in order to get by, then we're not really exercising our magical authority. Ourselves magicians at that point? That's a debatable question. Now, speaking as someone who's been able to manifest some amazing results in my life, one of the things that has always stood out to me is that when I've gotten out of my own way, I've been able to manifest those results because I have opened the door to accepting where I'm at in order to get to where I want to go. And what I've done is I've accepted where I'm at, and I've accepted the fact that this is not really where I want to be anymore. Now, what I've discovered is that a lot of times when I don't accept where I'm at, it's because there's a part of me that is resistant to the change that I know I need to make. And that part is usually saying something along these lines. Well, I don't like this, but secretly I do. Secretly, I enjoy these circumstances because they keep me in a place, and I get off on that because I'm actually getting power from it. I'm actually getting off on being a victim in XYZ circumstances. I'm getting off on not on feeling helpless and out of control. I'm getting off on not being able to move my life forward, and it gives me a sense of power and control to basically feel helpless. And that might seem odd, This is where there's a principle of chaos magic called the neither neither principle, where we're able to occupy two seemingly contradictory states of being at the same time in reality. Well, this is what people are doing when they are in an environment where they're saying essentially, I don't like the circumstances that I'm in, but I'm going to accept those circumstances and I'm going to allow those circumstances to dictate and control my life, even though I'm not really happy with where I'm at. I'm not happy with where I'm at, but part of me is happy with where I'm at. And this creates this essentially this contradictory state of being. And how do we resolve that? How do we change that? The answer to that is that we have to get real with the part of ourselves that is actually getting off and bring it out of the shadow and into the light. We have to, part of us is actually getting turned on and enjoys the circumstances that we're in. And once we do that, we free up a lot of energy because the part of us that enjoys being in the circumstances that we're in, even though the rest of us doesn't, is actually tying up a lot of our power and locking it down. And as a result, it is very hard to move forward in a meaningful and powerful way. So one of the things that I want to suggest to all of you is that it's really important to unlock the doors of reality and discover what it is that you really want that makes you feel disempowered, and actually accept that some part of you actually finds it to be empowering. And when you get off on that, when that is something that really turns you on, then you can start making the changes you want because you're no longer inhabiting a place of shadow in your life. You're no longer finding a reason to delay the changes that you want to manifest. And this is one of the taken to my own magical work of late, because I've been applying this. I've been looking at this for a few months because I've been like, there's been some circumstances in my life that I haven't been happy with. And I'll use a case in point. My job, which I'm leaving soon, I'm leaving it in like 3 weeks. There has been a part of me that has felt locked down and has felt like afraid and anxious up until recently. But when I applied the processes of existential kink to what I was experiencing, what existential kink did is it liberated me from that fear and anxiety because I realized I was actually getting off on it. That fear and anxiety was giving me a reason to stay small and to stay at a job that I really didn't like, because at least that part of me was saying, well, at least you have enough to get by. And hey, as long as you have enough to get by and you're able to distract yourself with a couple creature comforts, then it's worth it. You'll be fine. As being very magical, it certainly doesn't strike me as being very magical. It doesn't strike me as how a true ought to operate. And I realized that. And so what I did is I took ownership of the fact that I was actually getting off on my fear and anxiety, and that some part of me was feeling empowered by it. That fear and anxiety and redirect it. And now I don't feel afraid to leave this job. I'm really just more excited and anticipatory of the great changes that I'm manifesting into my life. And and I talk about this a lot with results. When you aren't getting the result you want, a lot of the time, it's because there is a party that is internally resistant. Like, not if I'm talking to somebody, I can figure out pretty quickly that what's stopping them from getting the results they want has a lot more to do with their inner landscape and what they believe about themselves, believe about the situation, and what they want, what they secretly want, which is keeping them from actually transforming their lives in a really powerful and meaningful way. So this is the same kind of thing that we have to understand and apply to our own work. And when we do this, transform our lives. And I can safely say that this is really helping me transform my life. I am learning to relish the experiences that I'm in and to get turned on by them. And then I'm finding that I'm actually able to move through those experiences a lot quicker because I'm no longer dwelling in a place of misery or unhappiness or whatever, which is secretly turning me on. And it's interesting, like in my particular case, what I've recognized is that there is a part of me that really does get off on the whole victim mentality. And it's like, yeah, at least when I'm poor Taylor, so to speak, everyone can feel sympathy for me for whatever's going on in my life. Feel better. It makes that part of me feel acknowledged. So it's craving external validation. But once I realized that that was what was getting me off, I changed. Suddenly, that part of me was like, oh, I don't really need that or want that anymore. I want to validate myself. I want to actually create the experience manifestations in my life that I've been longing for and let go of the things that I don't want anymore. And that blew my mind wide open and it transformed my life in a rich and powerful and meaningful way. So I urge you to consider that you can do the same thing. Um, Existential kink is definitely a helpful guide for that. I have some practices I can walk you through as well. So if there's something that you want help with around that, you can reach out to by clicking the link in the show notes for my website. But the most important thing I want you to keep in mind is that to let yourself acknowledge the shadow. Let yourself acknowledge the part of yourself that is saying, I don't, that I secretly do want this situation, this thing that's making me miserable and unhappy, because you're getting something from it. And when you can accept that and take responsibility for it, that's when you transform your life and actually start getting the things you really want. You get the really juicy stuff. And that's what I'm discovering as I continue to move forward on my own magical journey. I have some really exciting things planned for September. I can't wait to share all that with you as it comes up. And it's awesome. Like I just feel exhilarated that, I am moving away. I'm moving out of a situation that no longer gets me off, no longer turns me on, and so I no longer need it. Right. Thanks for watching, and click the notification bell as well, so that way you get notified when I go live. All right. Take care.